this is the next in our series of Port Life interviews, and it's a slightly different one today, where we've got Dan Hayes, who has been the founder of the Southport Football Club Former Players Association. Before we talk about that, Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and how long you've been supporting Southport?
Since 92-93 season, so what's that, 26, 27, 28 years, whatever that works out at.
Yeah.
So I've seen 26 different managers.
26?
Considering one of those has been here for a long, long time, that tells you a lot about turnover. 4 different chairmen, 3 promotions, a few relegations, one of those dressed as a lion. So yeah, feels like I've been here forever, but yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, feels dressed as a lion, because I think my first recollection of you were taking a coach to Stevenage.
Yep.
And next minute I saw you at the side of the pitch dressed in a lion. You had your head off, so we knew who it was, just as a lion. So how did that come about, Dan?
I think I was coerced into doing it by Hayden. I think it was just because we were taking a number of coaches down, because obviously it was a big game. We weren't in the bottom 3 at the time. Obviously we wanted to stay out the bottom 3, but we didn't manage that. And I think he was one of those people. I saw him on a regular basis being in the press box and stuff, so the work I was doing with the press, and he just asked me if I'd sort the coach out. And then we realised that actually it'd be quite a good thing to have the mascot there, because the mascot had only been around for 3 or 4 years. In fact, I'd been involved with Kevin Warburton, the commercial manager, at the time we introduced the mascot. So it don't know, we just fell to me to put the suit on. I think I remember getting changed on the coach on the way, putting the legs on and what have you. So yeah, I mean, funny memories, but a bit of a shocking day really. Sitting in the stand dressed as a lion as your team gets relegated is not the best thing in the world, but
it wasn't the best day, was
No.
it? No. Okay. So you talked then about volunteering roles that you were doing even as far back as that, don't you?
Well, I first got involved with the club when I was probably, I don't know, 15, 16, whenever it was. Started out as a school project and created a website, so the club's first website, back in 1996, I think it was, Port Online. We had Port Line, which was the phone line, so we had Port Online. And I originally wrote to Charlie to ask whether or not I could do anything. Charlie referred me to Derek, and Derek got me involved with doing press stuff and what have you by introducing me to Hayden and various other people. So that kind of morphed into doing press officer's job at one point. And I guess that's eventually what kind of led me through to doing the former player stuff, through having contacts with players and managers from doing that side of it. But I've done so many different random jobs here that I guess I've just built up the relationships over the years that it felt like a natural progression to go into looking after some of those people who've given me such good memories as a fan over the years. So.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's move on to the Former Players Association. It's something we've tried to do at the club for some considerable time. So what was your sort of motivation to actually get it up and running?
Main motivation really was that I've never really felt that as a club we've been particularly great at taking ownership and looking after the relationship we've got with players and recognising what they've done for us and recognising our history as a whole. I think Jeff and Mike have done a phenomenal job in trying to make sure that supporters actually do understand where the club's come from. I'm of the belief that you don't know who you are unless you know where you've been. So I felt that we needed to do something, and with the change in ownership at the club, there was a recognition that that people that were coming into the club didn't necessarily have that link to the history and would therefore know who to get involved and all this sort of stuff. So I sort of put the feelers out to some of the players that I'd met and some of the managers that I'd met over the years, asked them whether they thought it was something that they could buy into, would they be interested, spoke to various people like yourself, like Jeff, like Mike, to see if I'd get their support, asked for the club's blessing, would they support me doing this, and it kind of went from there really. So we had our first official meeting on 1st of June last year, and then obviously the Hall of Fame was our big event in November.
Yeah. So how do you actually qualify? Is it any player that's put on the pitch for Southport?
Ever played. So one appearance would qualify you. So we have got some real random ones we could approach, but yeah, so any player. And we've had a really good response. 150 plus members so far.
Is that how many we've got now?
Yeah, I think it's 153, 154 members, and the vast majority of them have been really pleased when I've actually contacted them, and have said, well, we should have done this years ago. I don't want to take away from the events that Jeff and Mike have put on over the years, the reunions, because they've been key in keeping people together and actually making sure we have the contact details of those people to be able to get in touch with them. And all the players speak so highly of the pair of them. So this is really an extension from the work that they've done really, and that's why it was so important to me that I got their support when we first started.
Yeah, I think we've had a few surprises of players that you have been able to contact, and I know one I saw at the Hall of Fame event, which I nearly dropped down when I saw him.
Joe Strong's the biggest surprise. So Joe Strong is a player that for probably about 20 years no one knew where he was. Even when we did the Trust in Yellow book, I can remember the profile in there was effectively saying, where is he? Because we just didn't know, we didn't know how to contact him, didn't know anything about where he was, what he was doing with himself. And then Jeff managed to track down a Facebook profile which he thought was him. So, not being on Facebook himself, Jeff asked me if I'd try and get in touch with him, and I got in touch with him, and he was absolutely delighted to be asked to be involved. And since then, he's been really quite keen on everything we've done. He came to the Hall of Fame ceremony. He brought a big group of his friends and family with him. He inducted Gary Cooper. He absolutely loved it. Said it was one of the best nights of his life. And he's one of the big success stories, really, because it was the first time that he'd set foot in the club for about 30 years, and it meant a lot to him. And the feedback I got from some of the other people that came as well, it was the same for them. The fact that the club had reached out, albeit via a former players association, to sort of recognise them and thank them meant the world to them, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame was an absolutely fantastic evening, wasn't it?
It was.
Were you pleased with the way it went?
I couldn't have been happier. I mean, no, don't get me wrong, I was nervous in the lead up to it, because you invite 100 people or plus 100 people to an event, and you hope they turn up, and I was absolutely made up. The room was packed. Liam said to me afterwards that he thinks it's one of the best club events he's ever been to, and considering that he's been here for nearly 20 years, that says a lot, and that means a lot to me. I think the comment was that for any player to be able to recognise their try to recreate their playing career for even 5 minutes is something to means something to them. And he said that it you could see in the emotion on people's faces when they were collecting their awards that it really did mean something to them. And again, the whole point of the Players Association is about recognising their achievements, and I think that we did that with some style. Yeah,
definitely. There was a lot of tears that night, wasn't there? There were happy tears.
There were happy tears. I mean, getting Joe Patrick's family to come down from Carlisle, his daughter and grandkid absolutely delighted. They were really made up that he was being recognised in that way, and it's important we do that.
Yeah. So the Hall of Fame, was it difficult to choose the members? I'm sure every single Southport fan was, why wasn't so-and-so in it? Why wasn't so-and-so in?
Yes and no. There was quite a few people involved in the selection. Picking those for the first year was difficult. You've got a few things to think about there. I mean, we started off with a big long list. Let's get everybody's thoughts on who should be in the Hall of Fame. And we got a list quite quickly together of about 50 to 60 players who everybody in the room agreed on. Then you had a list where most people agreed on, one or two wasn't so sure. And then you start thinking about, right, who would be good to go in first? Because it's not necessarily you put your 10 best players in first, because obviously this is a longevity thing. This is something you're going to do every years and years. But it's 10 that will make an impact and be recognisable to people, and also who are available, because that's the other thing. If you're putting an event on, you've got to make sure they can turn up. So we selected our 10, and I don't think anybody could argue with the 10 that went in. And I'm hoping that this year, although we probably won't put another 10, we'll probably put fewer in this year. I'm hoping that again people will agree with every single one of them. I don't think you could question any of the ones that have been in so far. And I'm hoping this year is just as successful.
So we are going to do another one?
Definitely. The hope is that we'll do it annually until we run out of players. So we are conscious that obviously if you put 10 in every single year, you'll get to the point when you've exhausted the pool of players who are actually worthy of a Hall of Fame, and it dilutes how important, and it dilutes how the whole point of the Hall of Fame is to recognise your special players. So we'll reduce the number from the second year onwards, so this year onwards, probably 5 or 6. We haven't determined who yet for this year. I've got a few in mind that I want to approach, but obviously I want to run it past the same people that we did last time, basically to see that we can all come up with a list that everybody agrees next, and then we'll start approaching them. The only difficulty is what we'd like to do is try and tie it in with the anniversary of the club, so around about November, but we can't pick your date until the fixtures come out, and the fixtures don't come out until the middle of July, so we're a bit stuck until then. So when they come out, you've got to pick a Saturday where we're at home, where there's no FA Cup, no FA Trophy, etc., and hope no one's got it booked. So yes, watch this space. There will be another event. There'll be a limited number of tickets available for supporters to buy. Obviously the priority is the players themselves, because it's about recognising them, but there will be a limited number.
Yeah, in some ways it's a diminishing pool because the Football League players, unfortunately,
Yes.
we have seen quite a few pass away over the last few years, so
Yes.
that's a bit of a difficulty.
It is.
But some of those that have passed away, they could still be inducted into the
Absolutely
Hall of
they
Fame.
can, yeah, absolutely they can. I mean, the regret that we've got really is that we didn't do this 20, 30 years ago when there was a lot more players around from the Football League days. But that's not to say that the players who've played in non-league football aren't Hall of Fame worthy. I mean, you think of the likes of Earl. He was the guy who effectively headlined this year, went on last, and who can argue against Earl going into the Hall of Fame, and what a legend he is. So although we're reducing the number each year to make sure that we can do this every single year, between now and when we run out of the initial batch of players, there'll be a whole new group that'll be Hall of Fame worthy.
So if anyone's watching this video and they want to be, obviously we're still trying to find some players, aren't
Yeah.
we? Is there a message you'd like to put out to them?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good list of phone numbers that I still need to get through because we've done the reunions in the past, and people who've been to reunions in the past, obviously, we know that they've got a soft spot for the club already. So we're trying to contact everybody that's on that list. But there are so many players who we've not spoken to for years and years and years that we'd love to get in touch. And if you've played 1 game, 2 games, 10 games, 100 games, I don't care, you've put a Southport shirt on, you qualify for the former players. So get in touch with us, former players at southportfootballclub.co.uk. Email us, we'll get back to you, we'll phone you. However, we want you involved. So yeah, if you've played for Southport Football Club, or even if you've been a manager or a coach, you've been involved with the first team, get in touch with me.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic initiative, Dan. I think on behalf of the club, we'd like to thank you for getting up and running. Like you say, it's something we've wanted to do for
Yeah.
a long time. So well done.
Thank you.